Hey Narwhals, my name's Luke Narwhal, and today we're going to be reading Ask Reddit. Obese users of Reddit. How did you get so large? Serious. Technical answer, eating and not moving. I was always kinda chubby growing up, and to be honest, I probably would have grown out of it with age. I could remember a time when my relationship with food was normal, not having seconds, only eating 3 times a day, mainly healthy food. But on a more personal note, I would have to say my backwards relationship with food stems from being abused when I was 8. Around that time, I remember eating out of the trash can, only once, and just consuming a lot more food. Food became something of a secret obsession. My parents weren't terrible people. They had me at a young age, 19 and 21, and probably would have been more knowledgeable about the signs of abuse if they had been older. For example, knowing it's not normal for an 8-year-old to get a UTI. My father was always working, and I later found out when he wasn't working, he was cheating. My mother was constantly depressed. I remember for a few months, she couldn't get out of bed, but when she did, it was to a drive-thru for lunch and dinner. My parents' own relationship with food was unhealthy. My father constantly worked out and was an occasional bulimic. My mother was physically and mentally abused by her father and was overweight. I never paid attention to being overweight until we moved to a more affluent area after my parents' divorce. We moved into a place with a lot of money with very little of it. I started becoming a lot more conscious of what I looked like compared to other teenagers. A rather unfair comparison, comparing myself to rich kids who would get new BMWs for their 16th birthday, had credit cards, name brand gear, and acting careers. It works in a cycle. You become insecure, then you eat. Divorce drama and no one is listening to you, eat. Not seeing dad because he is busy with his mistress, eat. You're invisible at school and dressed like a frump, eat. You can't make friends because you giggle too much and your normally extroverted personality turned inside out, eat. The person who abused you is moving in and trying to be your friend, eat more. I could write more about this, but Reddit has a short attention span. To wrap it up, people are unhealthy for a reason. No one is that lazy that they let themselves balloon up without underlying psychological issues. A majority of my weight gain, I was completely unaware until it was pointed out, until I stopped receiving compliments. I'm getting control now. I'm working out and eating healthier. By March, my weight should fall under 200. Sometimes I wish it could have gone the other way, that I would have become anorexic or bulimic rather than an overeater, but alas, I still would have been left with the same issues. It starts from when I was 4 weeks old. My father passed, leaving my mother, 3 boys, 18, 16, and 6, and a newborn baby. It was pretty tough for her to get by, paying for college for the older ones over the years, and to support my brother and I while we were still so young and wanted everything slapped on a Toys R Us magazine, which we surprisingly sort of understood we couldn't have. When I was the age when I could finally eat other things than canned baby food, I refused to eat a ton of things. My mom thought this was pretty normal. She gave in and figured it was a phase, giving me things I would eat like buttered rice, buttered noodles, bagels, carbs, and more. My mom was at work from 8 in the morning to 6 at night. She was exhausted coming home from work and would try to make a fast dinner for us. Everyone would eat meat or something, but I would flat out refuse to touch any meat. So mac and cheese became a staple of the night. I decided I would be a vegetarian then too, because I hated the taste of meat. I remember gaining weight when I was in 3rd grade. I remember how I started to be socially bumped out, and boys would like all of the other girls. I felt bad about it, and I knew I was the fat girl, and no one liked me because of it. I got made fun of, not outright most of the time, but I could see the stares, and I could tell what my classmates were thinking. Then I would go home, and who would make me feel better? All of the unhealthy food I didn't even know was unhealthy. Fast forward a few more years and I get an eating disorder when I'm around 18. I dropped so much weight, I'm finally thin and I love it. And I restrict my eating even more, and so on and so on. My mom got me help. I understood that it was unhealthy from the get-go, and now I'm pretty healthy. Normal weight for a 21-year-old. I'm still a vegetarian, I just understand how to eat now. Sorry for the long story. I'm the definition of an emotional eater and a bored eater, though the emotional is the bigger of the problems. Most of my life, when upset, I have eaten my feelings because they would replace hunger. As a child growing up, it had started at a young age. And first and foremost, I want to point out, my mother was a spectacular parent and my eating habits were not her fault. I say this because she tried everything. Discipline, punishments, therapy. For 4 years, the refrigerator and the cabinets were literally chained shut. This mortifies me to this day that she even had to consider it. Growing up, I always found a way to get into it. As a teen, it was still a problem, but it sort of contained itself. I wasn't getting thinner, but I wasn't putting on weight. My self-esteem was at an all-time low from probably 17 to 23, when I was convinced that I was completely unlovable. This came from the standard "I'm fat" conclusions coupled with what I understood were the standards of other gay men. Let me tell you, if you're gonna pick a community to be a fat teenager within, that's a terrible one. It was a cycle. I never managed to rein in my depression and self-esteem as I went to college, and I wound up leaving due to poor grades. Ironically, after I left college, I spent a great deal of time very depressed, but with no job and nothing to do, I exercised. I went walking and running, I swam, and I did calisthenics, and little else. I lost 60 pounds in 3 months. Unfortunately, I got a job at a video store and wound up making poor choices and gained much of it back by eating candy for lunch. I wound up back where I'd started. Eventually, I got a new job in an office, and as I came into that, I started feeling better about myself. Out of sheer shame, I can honestly say I hadn't weighed myself from the ages of 23 to 29. During that period though, I think it was the first time since my workout binges I probably lost weight. Shortly after that, I got into a very unhealthy relationship with someone. Work was rough and he was constantly miserable, but he said he loved me, so I stuck to him, and it clung to me badly. To make it worse, he somehow had way worse eating habits than I did. He refused any and all vegetables, claimed they made him sick. And out of being too lazy to cook 2 separate meals, my home-cooked meals quickly turned into whatever he was eating. I could say that for almost 2 years, at least 4 days a week, breakfast was at least 4 Pop-Tarts each, and dinner was at least 4 Hot Pockets each. For those of us playing our home game, that's something like 3,600 calories a day. I'd let myself get so oblivious to my health state that it didn't even register that I was eating that much. So now we're here. There's been a lot of negativity inward about the choices I made, and it's certainly rough. Growing up ostracized and having been shy in the first place, I have pretty significant social anxiety, and it's difficult for me to even try to lose weight in a public setting. I've started to become okay with who I am, even though it's still a huge day-to-day struggle. I've started to monitor my diet and make efforts to lose weight. I've lost about 20 pounds so far. It's not much, but it's a start, and I'm optimistic about my venture. I'm somewhere between overweight and obese. My excuse? I just like food. I'm plenty active, but I love the flavors and smells and textures and almost euphoric feeling of eating a good meal. Edit, and a bored eater. Winters are the worst because it's too cold to go outside and do stuff, so I sit around and stuff my face thinking about all the exercise I need to do in the summer to get back in shape. I was a size 4 until my daughter was about 4. Then my husband got fired for looking at prawn at work. It was devastating. I didn't think I was prude about prawn, but it was horrible to wonder why he needed something so badly that he would do it at work. Plus, I worked with him in the same department, so now my boss knew and my boss's boss knew. I had been working part-time. Suddenly I was back at work full-time and had to be grateful to be there, and to know my bosses had seen the pics and pitied me. He wouldn't see it as a problem. He lied to me and said he didn't do it. Then, when I discovered all kinds of cookies on his computer, he said he didn't have a problem. He went to therapy but never really addressed it, and never answered why he needed prawn so badly. Our marriage fell apart, but we had little kids, so I stayed. I went into a huge depression, and the combination of the antidepressants and the unhappiness resulted in a weight gain of almost 60 pounds. Now, 15 years has gone by. He was out of the workplace for 6 years while he got his act together. I worked that time and supported our family. Now I'm older and still fat and have had trouble connecting with a full-time job. I was laid off from the job where the bosses knew. I am bitter and resentful. I did what I thought was best for my family, but I gave up my self-esteem as a result. I will probably never see myself again as attractive. You are a person worthy of love and respect. Just thought you should hear that. Your husband was crappy and abusive and self-centered, and I'm guessing the prawn was an extension of that. But it still was not okay of him at all, and it is not your job to be his keeper. And that brings us to the end of the video, narwhals. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more weight loss stories and to join our YouTube community, the Narwhals. Make sure to leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed, and until next time, narwhals, be brave, be a narwhal.